Have you ever lied to your wife to protect your friend or a friendship?
You are in for a treat. Welcome to the Living in Fullness podcast, where you will get relatable, authentic, entertaining, and thought provoking content. I am your host, Naki Muteto. Here, we believe everyone has a story and every story has a purpose. It's when you own your story, your voice, and your journey that it's able to impact those around you. Our journeys and life experiences are not a coincidence. Join us on our journey to living their purpose on purpose by staying glued to learn more from real life experiences.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Living in Fullness podcast. I'm excited about today's episode. I've got a group of young married men that you will get to learn from today. But before we begin, I'll let them introduce themselves. Actually, do you know that generally as women, we get to express ourselves quite a lot, right? We express ourselves, we share our life experiences with our friends about work, about relationships, about marriage. And statistics says women speak 3 times more than men. So I told these men that they should bring themselves here today without their wives so that we can get to learn about marriage from them. Are you all ready?
As ready as you can be.
Okay, so I'll let them introduce themselves. We'll start from this side. Wait.
Thanks, Naki. My name is Websam Langeni. Been married for 5 years. Didn't get that wrong. Been married for 5 years. I'm a founder of Mlangeni Consultant, which does bookkeeping and strategy.
Nice.
Right. Well, my name is Stuart. I've been married for 3 years and a bit, and I am a part-time musician. Used to be a professional full-time musician, and yeah, that's about it.
My name is King, and I've been married for 7 years, right?
Yes.
You guys, it's been that.
Well done.
7 years. It's 7 years in March. I am a musician and trainer. So yeah, I'm also like in the music business and stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, thank you, everybody. So before we begin, before we get into knowing more about marriage from you guys, we've got a game that we're going to play. Okay, I don't know the name for it yet, but what you do is if you've done it, you have to sip. If you've never done it, you may leave the drinks there.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you all ready?
Let's go.
Okay. Have you ever lied to your wife to protect your friend or a friendship?
Oh,
Be honest.
I have.
Be
Do I see?
honest.
I
You
have.
sip.
To protect a friend.
Yes, or a friendship. Okay. Good. Okay, we'll move to the next
Wow.
one.
yes, that's good.
Have you ever covered up your wife to your parents?
Yeah. How much can I drink here?
Covered as in,
Like, they've done something, but you need them to look good still.
I never had to do that, guys.
Probably
It's your mine.
not something bad, but like
Yeah.
make them.
Yeah, make them look good. Yeah, that's
That's
important.
yeah.
That keeps marriage going.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever told your wife you were on the way home from work when you were still working?
Ish, guys. Yeah.
I'm usually happy to leave work, so
Okay.
When you're on the way out,
But you're not really on the way out. You're still
your mind is on the way out.
You know that stuff. Yes.
expect
Have you ever said you were stuck in traffic when you actually hadn't left? Okay, finish it. Just drink all of it. Okay. Have you ever forgotten your wife's birthday?
Never.
No.
Oh, we've got some nice
I will
ones, okay?
never, ever.
Yeah.
Not even if I try.
All right. The last question. Have you ever told your wife you were okay when you were not?
Maybe once or twice. I don't know.
For sure. Definitely.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you. We've got some amazing men here. So now I need to start. I'm going to start with you, King.
Sure.
Why did you get married?
So, how do I even answer that? I think I genuinely fell in love. And I would say the easiest thing for me was to get married because I had fallen in love, and I know like it sounds like wishy-washy or whatever and stuff, but yeah, I think I had genuinely fell in love with my wife, and yeah, I think that's it.
And you think you were ready for marriage?
Sure. As for if I was ready, when I think about it now, and I think of the 7 years, I'm like, maybe if like I pushed the 2 years of courting to like another 2 years, maybe I would have been ready, But I think then I wasn't fully ready. Maybe emotionally, like I was, because we like went through stuff before we got married. But on other aspects, I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you make it happen as long as you know what the goal is.
That's true. Web, do you think you were ready to get married?
Yeah, I think I was. I think so. My wife had put me in the friend zone back then, and by the time I was trying to get out of that space, and we actually started dating, I just got the deeper sense that if I continue dating, it's going to lead to marriage. So I had like that pivot moment earlier to say, if you're dating, it's going to marriage. And so from that point, it just directed. So from when I just knew.
Nice. But what qualities of these two do you think Nicole had that made you feel, I'm ready, I need to marry her?
Yeah, I mean, practically, I knew that I wanted to marry Nicole. Like, being somebody who, so I mean, part of my story and part of my testimony is I was married before, and so yeah, my second marriage, and unfortunately the first marriage. I like to put it this way: I got along with my wife, and we got along with her boyfriend. And unfortunately things happen. So I think coming out of a marriage, I also knew what I was looking for, like the type of person as Excel. And I saw Nicole, like I saw all of those things that I knew was, I mean, not only was she attractive to me physically, because that's important for guys, but also she had all the qualities that I knew was just somebody I could spend my life with, you know what I mean? And somebody who was just kind, generous, not selfish at all. Somebody I knew I could build life with and have a family with. And I think those are, as you mature in life, I think you start to figure out, those are the qualities you look for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she ticked all of those boxes and then, so for me it was kind of a no-brainer. I also pursue her a little bit, like, first time I asked my wife, I just said, I'm available in 3 weeks time.
Shame.
Wow. So do you guys believe there's the one? Because there's someone out there who's probably wondering. I know my little sister always asks me this, like, am I with the one? How do I know this person is the one? So how would someone know they are the one? Is there such thing as the one?
Guys, that's a tough one. I mean, for me, I like I remember the first time I saw those, I just smiled, and I don't know what was going on. I just smiled, like out of the blue, and it was the first time ever seeing her at that time. But when at that time I didn't say, she's the one, she's the one and stuff, because also like with the way I grew up, I sort of like would probably not have any expectations and stuff. I almost like had to push myself to work, towards what I was feeling. So the whole thing of you're the one and stuff. Hey guys, like the thing is now when you get on the other side, like that's when it gets, you know, that's when, you know, so I think, I don't know, man. I think for me, I had to work to get to where I'm at, you know. So I don't know. I mean, people have different views over this thing, but I wasn't like, she's the one. She's the one. I didn't even, like, I was excited, but it wasn't the whole thing. I found the one. There was nothing like that. I kept it to myself, and like it's something that I had to build, you know, within me, and you know, so I don't know. I don't know what you guys think, but
I always say that. Like, I always say that, because some people believe that you're predestined to be with somebody, right? But what I always say is, as Christians, we've got free will, right? You've got free will on how you want to behave, how you want to act, the path you choose to take. And then now, if that person I'm thinking or predestined to be with, what if they take a path that doesn't align with my values? Then obviously now I can't be with them.
Sure.
I think you make them the one. I think you choose somebody that you know you. I don't know if the rest of the guys are like this, but you kind of have an idea of what you're looking for. You know what I mean? And it's so bad, like based on what phase of life you are in. I must be honest with you. If I had met Nicole earlier or later, I don't know if she would have felt the same.
True.
Exactly.
True.
Exactly.
You know? And so, I mean, the way that I went about it is you go, you say, this person has most of the qualities that I think will, you know, exactly. Well, is a good basis for a relationship. And my philosophy is you make the person the one. So if they're not the one, you got to do some more work, like you were saying. You know, you as a guy, or just from a man's perspective, that's how I look at it.
Because I met Ntozo actually when I had a girlfriend. I had a girlfriend, but still, that whole thing where I found the one, it wasn't there. You know, I knew that I had to like make it someone for me to say, okay, now I'm settled. You know? So
And I think it's lazy. The principle of the one is lazy. It's a premise for laziness, because then it means that you don't have to work in your marriage. Because she's the one, I'm the one, and God has everything's going to be hunky. Then when things go bad, then it's like, how could the one do this? Then if they disappoint you, then wow, actually it's not the one. Okay, next one. And whereas you like, listen, this is the person I'm going to build my life with, and I'm going to choose this person. Then when things happen, you're still going to choose that person. You're not going to say, I think I must go look around again. It
sets up the expectation for that person to be a perfect person. Saying, this is the one. And I also think it's a reason that so many relationships fail after marriage, because you go, oh shucks.
Especially in the first 2 years, when it gets real and you're like, this person, honeymoon phase is over, and now you're really seeing this person and they're comfortable around you, like, that's not the one I was looking for.
Hence, when I think about it, I'm like, also as a guy, like I need to bring that reality, you know, that things are gonna get real. You know, which is why, like, I think those always says that's one of the things why she fell in love with me. I was honest with her when I met her. I was like, I'm a musician and I'm broke. I don't have money. You know, I'm working like on, you know, I'm working on my life and stuff like that. You know, and like for me, it was that whole thing that, like, I'm gonna work as much as possible to make sure that, you know, I'm not gonna. You know, because as guys, we need to be like real with ourselves and be real with the people that we want to build our lives with. So the whole thing of trying to act out of character all the time doesn't always work, guys.
But now that you mentioned the expectations, right? So when you're looking at marriage, how do you deal with the unmet expectations? And how, because people say that marriage exposes you
Yeah.
to yourself.
Yeah.
No, it's not marriage if it doesn't prune you, if it doesn't sharpen you, if it doesn't make you realize that, girl, you needed to carry a bag of
Yeah.
holiness. You know, so what do you think and how do you deal with those unmet expectations?
Sure. So I've got one friend that we decide every month, or maybe twice a month we meet up, and the first question is, are you still happily married? And the answer that comes up is, okay, what's going on? And it centers me because, as you're saying, some of the things that I'm noticing in my wife that I'm like, you should be doing this, it's actually stuff that I need to deal with. So before I'm now like, you were meant to da 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 da. For me, I'm meant to wake up and have croissants there, and there are no croissants. It's just, cereal. What's going on? It's so good to have a chat with another guy first, because then that guy will like, but this sounds like it's just you here. It's not your wife. You need to deal with yourself first before you bringing those expectations out to her. So that has helped me filter a lot of my unmet expectations, especially cognizant that you can't just go and tear down your partner. So if I'm always going to my partner and saying, you're not doing this, you're not doing this, you're not doing this, it's tearing her down.
That's a good one.
So at least it helped me filter before doing that, because some people say, you must speak your truth.
Yeah, but
And sometimes the truth is just that moment.
It's not the one.
It's not the right place, and it can mess up situations even more. But yeah.
It's true, like negotiate, and I do think like expectations, and I think the reason that all goes bad for us guys is because there are certain expectations from society that society sets. Like King was saying, like most guys are expected to be the providers of the house. Where the and to be honest with you, like I'm somebody who advocates for
provider.
for women. Absolutely, women and strong women. Like that's the person. That's Nicole. She's strong, independent woman.
Nice.
But there's no denying, as a guy, there are certain expectations from society for you to provide for your family. And I also say it like this, like what King was talking about. I'm also a musician, and that messes up like the expectations that you go into a relationship with, in terms of like what you expect from wife and what you think she expects of you. Also,
That's also a big one.
Exactly, and I mean that's where those. I'm like what I'm trying to say is like Wade is saying something so important. Like all of those expectations that you have to filter through your expectations is all the stuff that you yourself are
Like a
dealing with.
mirror of you.
Your own expectations that you're not meeting in yourself, now you project it on your spouse. Every expectation has to filter through what did I expect of myself first. You know what I mean? And then why is that an expectation of my wife? But I do want to say though that conflict and around expectations is unavoidable. Unavoidable.
Can't
And
be.
you've got things as well.
It's the same thing.
And I mean, just the last thought, it was like, and it's so nice that I'm leading into this with like why you choose your wife or whatever. Because like going into marriage with an expectation, you know what I mean, and then having to learn that you got to negotiate expectations, after that, and say, hey, cool, this is an expectation that I have, but what happens when that expectation is unmet is the basis for choosing a partner. Can you choose a partner that even if they don't meet the expectations, you still want to be?
You still want to be them.
That's so good. There's a lot of learning and unlearning and wisdom as well. I always say people are only ready to get married when they are able to take care of themselves. I'm not talking about financially. I'm talking about your personality, your emotions. And that's why I always say people should never jump from one relationship to another. Give yourself time to heal, because now you're going to another person with all these expectations that you've set for them, and if they don't meet them, it's like a tick box. Have you done this, And if they don't meet them, it becomes a contract. You didn't, so now there's no need. And so King, what did marriage expose about yourself? What do you think was exposed when you got married?
I think it exposed my selfishness.
Yeah. Tell me.
Because I remember, like, our first day of marriage, guys, it was rough, man. There was just a lot of questions I had then, and luckily there was guys around that time who, like, I had conversations with. I'm like, guys, like, there's just times where I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
The person comes home, they just don't want to talk to me or whatever and stuff like that, and in most cases, like I was one person who would never ask, even like from home.
Yeah.
I struggled when my mom would come in and either like she's angry over something or whatever, like I wouldn't ask. Like I would be like, whatever, go to my room, chill there, and go on with my life. But with marriage, it's different because you're saying you want to spend the rest of your life with this person. So now I had to switch my mind to say, okay, this is not my mom. I could get away with that.
Yeah.
So it's important for me to always ask if she's not okay. Like, are you okay? I'm fine.
And to really
And
ask.
with yeah. So, like, I think, and for me, like, maybe it might seem like an easy thing, but for me, it was really tough, because, like, when I grew up, I was, like, way within myself, like, and to come out of that and be a person who really shows that they really care. Because I'm sure, like, even my siblings thought I just didn't care, altogether, and, so, like, I had to, like, dig deep, and also the conversations I was having around marriage with other people, like, they sort of, like, opened my eyes to say, you want to spend your rest of your life with this person, but, like, what does that look like? Does it look like when she's not okay, you don't care, you don't ask, you just sit in your room until she, because we're also there to, like, give that support in any way, not just financially or whatever, but also just to be guys who are gentle, even if you grew up in an environment. But when it comes to marriage, I think the people that we live with, we need to be more, So I had to come out of that selfish shell and and try challenge myself to be a better person also, as, like, in my own personal space also, So, yeah.
I think that's the thing, because women need you to be in touch with your emotions.
Exactly.
So if you're that person who withdraws or is not confrontational, then she will be mad at you until you want to talk about it. So you always have to ask. So there's this other time that I was invited on a TikTok live. So this lady was asking questions and to different people. So people had to join the call and ask questions about marriage or whatever. And this guy joined. I kept asking this guy how old he is, because throughout his questions he showed me how immature he was. So he kept talking about his friends, and he was saying that, I don't like my wife because she restricts me from seeing my friends. Right? And then I said to him, how often do you want to be seeing your friends? And he was like, no, I used to see my friends every time after work. And I said, you're married. You want to see your friends every time after work? He was like, no, I had to reduce it to every weekend. And I said to him, no, you're not mature. You're not ready for marriage. So I want to ask from the young married men, right? How do you set boundaries when it comes to friends, to family, and make sure that you have covered your marriage? Because from my perspective, marriage only works in first place, and the only person that should be above it is God. So how do you make sure that you set boundaries with friends, family, and everybody around you, so they know that this is your priority and it's clear?
Guys, your wife must be your best friend. So my wife now knows the teams I support. There's times she'll remind me, go to shucks, I can be working, soccer teams, I can be working. She's like, isn't Manchester playing today? Like, you know what? Yes, that's why I married you. So, like, you also introduce her to things, because the reason why that guy would want to spend time with his friends is that the friends understand him, and he can have fun with his friends. So I have to be able to have fun with my wife. Then I don't need to have fun with other friends. Then I'm okay. But from a boundary place, I cut the friends who don't understand that I'm married, or pull away from people who don't understand that priority is marriage. So if it's family members who aren't understanding that my priority is my marriage and my family, cut or create distance. And friends, same way, because you want people who can say, okay, it's been an hour, 2 hours, but go home to your wife. Not like, now, do you have a visa? That kind of, it also just creates a bad vibe that they have to your wife. And, we feed off it sometimes. You can just say, oh, I want to go, but I need to speak to the wife. So we also don't even help the situation. But people around you who know that your marriage is important and your family is important are the people you have to have around you. If they don't see that, then you have to, because they'll pull you away.
So you need men that know how to cut off the bad.
So for me, maybe this might be a bad thing to say, but I envy those couples who get married and just go away.
Yeah.
If you
like it.
If you're in another country or you're in another
city
where you don't have any friends or whatever, even if you call them, it doesn't help you. Because for me, marriage, you have to work, guys. Because now, when you're away, there's no external whatever that you can run away to. You have to stick around and face whatever. Because that's what marriage also exposes. It exposes your character as a person, as to can you handle this thing? Because at the end of the day, if you're saying you're married, then you should know that if things get tense, you still need to be there. So I really envy those couples, where they just get away from family. And not that I have anything against my families or my friends, but I always feel like couples need to just go away and, because honeymoon is not enough, guys. Honeymoon is never enough. Honeymoon is not enough. Just if you are getting married soon, if you can, go away, guys, and start somewhere, and be challenged, because you're gonna be challenged either way, and sometimes when we are within the people, like our families and friends, we always find stuff, we find excuses and stuff like that. And whereas when you're away, there's no excuse. You have no excuse. You have to put in the work all the time.
I think that's why COVID marriages failed.
Guys, it was lit.
People were not used to being together.
Exactly, together.
They weren't used to being together. Other couples thrived because they're used to being together and in each other's space. Others was like, who are you that I'm now spending 24 hours with? And marriages went through the most. So, I just...
I have a slightly different, angle.
Yes, Stuart.
I completely agree. You're working to you got to build on your relationship. You married, you got to build on your relationship. That's your priority, because building that relationship means a model for the kids. It means that's what when you get married, you kind of have to have the mindset that cool, we're building this relationship. We're building. That's but there's also I want to go back to, I've seen so many times, and I saw it in my previous marriage, where what happened is you get involved with somebody, you don't like their friends. You know what I mean? You already see they're around company of people who are not going to say
beneficial.
Who are not going to say, you know what, you should be at home. Why are you?
Our trauma. Our trauma. French.
So I think that's a pre-marriage problem where you're with this person, you know they have these kinds of influences. You know, you get married now, you're gonna try to cut that off and it becomes difficult, you know what I mean? So I think part of it is, and I'm talking from a guy's perspective, you know what I mean, where my wife was hanging around, my ex-wife was hanging around with people I didn't like, you know what I mean? And that should be a flag on its own before you met. To say, we need to have a conversation.
Sure.
You're going to become the type of person with the people you hang around with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's a pre-conversation. I don't like your friends, and you got to work it out. You know,
That's the thing.
And you got to get to that understanding where you go, all right, why don't you like my friends? And you got to be honest, like, and say, because they keep pulling you away from me, and this is going to get worse than that.
That's true. And I always say that it's okay for your friends to not like your wife, but they have to respect your wife. So if they cannot respect your wife, then they're not supposed to be there.
I don't know one wife who would be uncomfortable with friends who might not like them, but will say, no, man, I respect your family. They won't have an issue with it. The issue they have is with the friends that
take them away. So how do you guys avoid temptation in marriage? Because we're speaking about boundaries, right? How do you avoid temptation? I know your Christian husband.
Hallelujah.
But let's be honest.
Praise God.
Let's be honest, right? Because you're human. Okay? And I like it. There was, I think it's one of my mom's friends. The other time they were saying that, be careful of complimenting people's wives because she might have come from home and the husband never complimented her. So that kind of temptation you can get, and I think with women it's different. For women to get into cheating, it's a process. It starts with you saying to your friend, oh, do you know what happened? Or they just see you crying, you're not even telling them your problem. What happened? They start seeing those openings in your marriage and all that. So as men, how do you avoid temptation to remain faithful in your marriages?
Sure. Okay. I need to be honest. I struggled between from year 1, I think, to year 3. So there's certain things that I did in previous relationships that I took into my marriage, and I don't know. I think also I was aware of what I was doing, but it was so hard to let it go, and I'm still not sure even today and maybe that might be dangerous, but I'm still not sure how I let it go. But I think the more I was having conversations with my wife, I would see how it hurts her. Because for me, flirting with girls was almost like a thing type of, and the thing is I would sort of hide it, and obviously that's a red flag already, but I'm glad it was just ending there. It wasn't a thing where now I'm going and I'm doing stuff. Maybe some people won't believe that, but it's fine. It's my truth. But I really struggled. But it took a couple of conversations with my wife, and her telling me how this is making her feel, and there was a point where she wanted to divorce me because of this thing, and it was a tough thing because now I definitely knew it was gonna kill me if she had to leave because of, that whole thing, because in my mind I was also not telling myself that I'm gonna do it until, I can't even put it in a certain way where I'm I couldn't let it go because of this, because I don't know how many couples go through this, but there's a phase where intimacy is down. Is really, really bad. you know. And I think most of the times when we would be in those seasons where like intimacy is, you know, and then somehow this thing will trigger, you know, me to like almost find another like an escape for it, you know. But the thing is, your if your conscious works really, really well, you know when to stop. You know? So in as much as I was doing it, but there was something in my mind that, like in my heart also saying, this thing needs to stop.
Yeah.
You know, at some point. Yeah. And that was even way before my wife found out, and we started having conversations and stuff.
Oh, so she didn't have to stop you.
She didn't have to stop. I had to like push myself because I mean, I hear stories of guys cheating. Guys probably cheated 10 times, and he knows very well how the wife feels. So I think it's with the person, you know, to say, this thing needs to stop. I need to cut it. Yeah. Because it's not building anything, you know, for me. So, I mean, after those times, and then I had to, you know, cut. And I mean, that was the greatest decision ever, you know, because right now I am finding ways. Like, I mean, I was having a conversation with some guys at church, actually. And I was telling them, like, that I have found, no, I almost said I mastered the skill, but I have found a way to avoid anything that's gonna probably trigger something between me and a lady at church or and a lady anywhere else. You know, whereas, so like I always try and avoid being in a room like with just a lady.
That's good.
You know, because it's one of those things where you're like, because your mind, like this thing, you work on it, it takes time to get over it. You know, even today, like it's still something that I need to like every day remind myself with, like, I can't be doing any other stuff because if I do anything, I lose everything. Yeah. You know, so for me it was it's you, like, you need to get to a point where you tell yourself that, okay, I am not gonna do this. You know, no matter how much, you know, because it's pointless, guys. Yeah. Pointless, really.
Yeah, I think for me it starts, you know, so here's the thing with us guys, is that, I mean, in general, guys, like, you are, there's so much that can just physically trigger you, you know what I mean? Like, I wish in some ways it was an emotional trigger for us. Do you know what I mean? You would have to work hard to actually trigger it. But because most guys are physical, looks and things can really trigger those things.
A lot of things.
You know, it's really hard, like, as a guy, to really learn the skill of being able, you know, to actually avoid. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think, like, a lot of people, I don't think a lot of, like, women understand how really difficult it is to consistently avoid, you know, thinking about sex all the time. You know what I mean? It is something that comes at you as a guy. You know, all the time. All the time. You know, all the time.
They say all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there can be moments when you don't even, you know, like, want to be triggered, but something on TV goes, you know, and like it just invokes this kind of like, it's like an instinctive trigger, you know, in guys, you know, specifically, like, particularly guys.
But how do you even avoid it too? Because, you know, even as much as even for women, it's emotional, right?
Yeah.
How do you resist the temptation to actually cheat? Because we can all do anything. You know, we can all wake up and decide to rob a bank.
Yeah.
We can all wake up and decide to do whatever bad we decide to do. But how then? Because I know with men, right? Men cheat generally, but it's a question of when. But the problem is when women cheat.
Even that statement.
Yes. Generally.
You know, that's why
Generally.
mental health, suicide because the woman is cheating you.
Sure.
So now, how do you avoid cheating? Because that's what I need the men out there to learn.
Yes.
There are two levels. There's what Stuart is talking about. You go there, this go, whatever. Like, well, that's like a training point of view. So, mental mastering yourself. It's avoiding certain type of entertainment spaces, to just maybe even like sensitize yourself again, and work on you. So that's the first thing that I guess if any guy decides, and that comes from what matters. So the choice is, okay, you're going to take the second look, you're going to say that nice thing, but the joy and gratification you get from doing that compared to your family. So which is more important? And realizing that the more you do this, you're losing out on your family incrementally. That helps you. So you have to master it. The second one is the pure boundaries of, so I had a lot of female friends before I got married.
Hey.
And I had a couple of old female friends before I got married. And one of the things I think someone told me is like, there are certain conversations you don't get into with a woman.
Sure. Yeah.
At all. So at work, I don't create a situation where I now have a work pay.
Yeah.
Because now I'm in a different field from my wife. So when I'm chatting to this lady, she gets me, da 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 la la. We're like bouncing off each other. This is fun. I get home, I tell her, she's like, okay. I'm like, She doesn't get me. Or some women where if the biggest mistake some guys do, even if they're not going to cheat with that lady, I can have a fight with my wife, go to my cousin and sister and say, yo, this is what happened. I don't understand. How am I wrong? She's like, no, man, she's been crazy. Like, what woman would say that? That's just so. Then in my mind, I'm like, yeah, man, I married the wrong one.
Exactly.
Other women are actually fine. She's the problem. She's the issue in this situation. So if I change this person, I'll actually find the 80-20. I'll find that other one who actually gets me. And there are women out there, guys, who they'll see the ring. King, why are you so young and married? Are you happily married?
Yeah.
Smiling, everything. Church, out of church, wherever. And if you're in that space,
You're gone.
you're gone.
Yeah.
You're gone.
It's both ways of saying. I think that the problem is, one, what guys tell themselves are also okay, and when Nix and I got married, I said, look, here's our policy. You get yourself in any sort of situation. Our thing is, we do a Joseph, and a Joseph is, the story of Joseph. You run, you get out of the environment
Definitely.
that is
Causing such.
it's triggering certain feelings, and you get out of it, move out of it, get out of it. And that, for the most part, has helped, like on what we were saying, on the skills level of like what triggers you and the response to a trigger. But there's another level that Web was talking about, is the internal thing that's going on. And that is what us men tell ourselves when it comes to looking at stuff on the internet and things like that. We tell us we like that. We say we need this. This is something as a man I need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we justify those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I'll be honest, I've done some of that. Yeah, I need it. I don't get it enough from my wife. And can you ever get it enough from your wife? You know what I mean?
And also the things you watch can set unrealistic expectations on your wife. So it's like a vicious cycle. So now you're expecting this, you're not getting it, so you go back and you're expecting this, and then
you're telling yourself, as a man, I need it.
And
so that's the deception, like you're saying. But I think the solve for me, I've taken an approach to saying, because I carry, as a man, I carry this this very strong urge. I need to be responsible for it.
Yeah.
So I need to be responsible for how attracted I can be to somebody else. I need to be responsible for how I feel. I need to be responsible for these urges. Because it's something that is powerful, I need to be responsible with it. Like with anything else, exactly. Like with anything else, powerful. You own a gun. You need to be responsible
with it.
Being, you know what I mean? Those, you know, it means to stay away from others.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the solves. Is if we don't have enough guys who are teaching other guys to say, you need to be responsible with your responses to women. You need to be responsible with those feelings. You know.
But then it's what's normalized. So people, okay, I worked somewhere, and they started dating my wife, and they're like, so a girl walks past, like, go, she looked at you, go speak to her. I'm like, no, I'm fine. Of course. They're like, so, like, you're a man, window, that, like, go speak to her like that. You're not marrying her, and you're not married to the. Go speak, show us you're a man. So now people haven't been able to control themselves, and the lie that you tell yourself because you can't control it is that it's normal. That's what justifies it in your mind. So now when you meet someone else, you need to get them also into that deception. So there's no guy who will say, Abba, we were walking and you just looked at that lady twice. What's going on? Why? Instead, when guys are walking, I'm walking with King and he looks. King like, yo, ubonile. Like, uban. I know, maybe 8. So now that's also the problem. Like, we haven't really had men or fathers who can say, listen, you're going to see women, you're going to be attracted to women, this is how you handle that. And it's normal to have that attraction, but as a man, you can be able to contain it and control it. We haven't had that. We haven't been taught how to do that. So what I feel as a man is like weird because no one has taught me. So it's either shame, so I hide it, and then I cheat and I'm this thing, or we normalize it and I hang around friends who can. But no one has actually come and taught us, good, this is going to happen. This is how you deal with it. I've dealt with it. I'm married for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. I love my. You're like, oh, so it's possible. And I'm not weird. Okay. So.
And that's good. It's like King wants to say it on, but it's like we were saying, like, I learned that response from my dad, who's a pastor. And, you know, because he was in a position that was attractive, you know, as you know, he had to put up boundaries because it's about, like, and I mean, I'm using the word responsibility or responsible intentionally because it's about how you respond to every trigger, every situation. Respond. How do you respond? What's the best way to respond? Like I said, we don't have enough role models in society on how that happens. You know what I mean? And in family units on how that happens. Again, not for my dad, but I mean, I have uncles that I went to who you know, you go out and then they make comments and they're like, yeah, I know, Dash is watching, you know, or, you know, they speak with each other like that. Now you learn that. And so I'm, you know, when the toxic masculinity thing came up, you know, I don't believe that every man, absolutely. But I do think.
Did you hear that?
Not every man, thank you.
There are some good men out there to get married. Okay? But before I let you guys go, right? How do you deal with your mental health? Right? Like, how are you vulnerable to your wife? Because marriage is a lot, right? So sometimes, generally, as wives, we're always expressing ourselves. I can always tell you how I'm feeling, what you did wrong, but I've had to learn when to speak as well, because I used to be, every time something happens, I'm like, oh, did you just do what you just did, you know? But now I had to learn when to say it, how to say it, right? So I think society as well as the world, because I think men generally grew up being told you're a man, you're strong, right? You should not cry, you don't show your feelings to people. So how do you deal with all that, and how do you make sure that you express your feelings? It's okay to cry to your wife, it's okay to show your emotions, because it becomes a cycle. You will have sons and you tell your sons don't cry, and they'll carry on doing the same thing. And for your marriage, how do you do it? Do you go for therapy? Do you have people that mentor you? So
Yeah, I think it's so much of it. Like, if I think about where I learned all of those things, like my dad, I wouldn't say he wouldn't cry around me, but he's not typically an emotional guy. And most guys are like that. They don't typically respond emotionally. But so I know this, and I work in our church as like a youth pastor as well. So I know this. Guys typically develop very late on. So and guys are bad at managing emotions. They really just are bad at managing emotions. So I think it starts, like you're saying, from our experiences at a young age. If I think of how I learned not to cry, it wasn't from my dad. It was from the other guys in the playground who beat me up and oh my God, why are you crying? It's things like that. It's those things, and they are those things in society that you grew up with. I don't think it's just passed down from
parents.
I honestly don't think that. But how do you deal with it? I think for me, I've said to myself, it's okay to express my emotions. But I think a guy just want to do that in a safe place. So
I think that notion, a happy wife is a happy life, is one of the biggest factors to men not expressing their emotions in marriage. Because a man wants peace, right? So if I'm going to tell you how I feel and you're going to cry about it, then the house is not peaceful. Then now I have to manage your emotions. So if how you contain what I'm saying and it's too much, then I'd rather not say anything so that there's peace, and then I'll have the battle internally. So I want to throw it back to the ladies who say the men aren't speaking. The question is, when he says something, what do you do with it? How do you contain it? How do you respond to it? Because you're teaching your husband how to treat you and how to speak to you. So if I feel safe, if I can feel safe that my emotions won't like rattle you and you'll be a safe space, then I can even share myself. I can cry. But like, I remember the first time I cried, my wife just started crying. I was like, she's like, I've never seen a man cry. It just devastated her. Then, like for me, I'm like, yeah, shucks, no. So if I cry, it's going to miss. So those are the spaces where you really, as a couple, need to work on, because men only open. That's why in stadiums people can cry for their teams, because it's a safe space to cry for your team. Everyone else is crying for your team. So,
what team you support?
Yes, like Chelsea currently, a lot of people are crying, but so I'm just saying from that space, because therapy and that won't really work if home is not safe emotionally for your husband, because you can go speak to a therapist together, and if it's not safe, there'll be a fight about what happened at the therapist. So
there will always be something.
So rather be the safe space. God says He formed Eve from the rib. The rib protects the most vital organs. So you need to be the protection for the man's softness. That's what I say, and I don't think a lot of ladies are or can be that kind of person. And if you want that, hopefully they can. But if they can learn that place, they will really have a man who opens up and who's vulnerable because he feels safe.
Yeah, definitely. So, sorry, Stu. So for me, I think also, I don't know, depending on how maybe life is set up, I've never seen my dad cry. I've seen my mom cry more than my dad, but I had a grandfather who was never like afraid to like express himself, and I've seen him cry, and I've seen him cry over things where I'm just like, yo, can a man really cry for that? Like, you know, and I think for me, that really helped me considering how I grew up and stuff. You know, those kind of moments, like they built up something emotionally, you know, mentally also. And so like, I think it's just always important to find people that you're gonna be really comfortable, especially whether, let's say maybe you're not married yet. It's like always good to find yourself with people that you're gonna be comfortable
That's
with.
good, yeah.
You know, I've had friends also that I've seen cry, you know, over stuff, and I'm like, shucks, you know, because I mean, the group of friends that I had when I grew up, when not one, you start crying, they laugh at you, and it's over.
Yeah,
You know, so like as I grew up, then like there's people who were around me who modeled the whole thing of you need to be able to express yourself. You know, when you're not good with something, you need to say, you know, you need to express it and stuff. Yeah.
I think that you're so spot on. If I think about the guy friends that I've had, I don't think any of them in close, like the times when we've had like just meaningful conversations, I don't think a lot of guys have issues when they're comfortable sharing emotions and when they don't feel like they're gonna be shamed.
Yeah.
I think it really is important about environment. But I also think that there's a different perspective that needs to be looked at with guys. Like, just because guys don't cry, you know, like I feel like there's an expectation for guys to express themselves emotionally in a certain way. If you are sad, you have to cry. And us guys don't generally cry when we're sad.
No.
We go and play soccer. Or we go and sit down and have a drink with our guys and go,
This is better.
I'm sad. Guys generally, I mean, most of the guy friends and maybe this is just, you guys can speak to this, but the guys I have friendships with are not bad at expressing their emotions. They just don't react like
a woman would.
Yeah, a woman would.
Okay,
Exactly.
that's great. So, how, just one more thing I'll need from each one of you. There's a young guy out there, young man, right? So generally, I'm always speaking to women about red flags, okay? These are the red flags you should watch out for. You know? If a man is doing this, he's cheating, okay? So just mention one red flag for a guy that you can say, if she is doing this, don't marry her. What red flags, just one from each one of you that you can give a young guy. So,
look, I have one. If a woman says, this is how I am, run. Run. Because it means I will never work on myself. Which means like it's an unmovable rock. Your whole life will be you molding to what she is. So she says, but that's how I am. And this is how I've been. Then you can't build with this person. Because she's never going to change. She's never going to try and meet. And marriage will not be the most important thing. She will be.
wow.
And you can't work, you can't create a culture, you can't create a family with a person like that. You'll always be the one giving more. So
even if she's gonna change, maybe not for you, because she's already
because she's like, for you, I'm like this. So take it or leave it. So
shucks, for me, I don't know, man. Like I think for me, if everything is centered around one person in that relationship, then
it's always about her.
Yeah, it's
you run.
Yeah.
You plead.
No, if you go to bed and you feel like you haven't done anything, like then just forget it.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
I mean, there are so many things you and maybe one of the major learnings for me was from being in a relationship with somebody who, man, I married the person, so I've kind of like vetted them, you know what I mean? The one thing that is a standout to me coming from a failed marriage is that thing that King and the guys are talking about is not like taking responsibility for when you can see somebody doesn't want to take responsibility for
Your actions.
it's not my fault, somebody you to blame in some sort of way, you know what I mean? I had to take responsibility for my contribution to a failed marriage as well, you know what I mean? It was the best thing. But when you find somebody, one, who doesn't take responsibility and is able to say, you know what, I was wrong,
Yes.
that is
They
a
can't say
major,
sorry, it's an issue. It's a big issue.
major
Yeah. And there's a difference between a sorry and an apology as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. We've come to the end of our episode. Please don't forget to comment if you'd like to see their wives on the show. Shout out to the beautiful wives. Thank you so much for allowing your husbands to come through. Please don't forget to share, like, comment, subscribe, and come back. See you soon.